Good evening, Pallatrax, and anybody else who's about, especially Team Pallatrax members. So, yeah, Sunday has whizzed around from 2 weeks ago when I was last here on the Pallatrax main Facebook page. So, yeah, hopefully a few little icons of eyes dotting up. So, good evening. Hopefully the comments are working. That's always the main challenge I have. So, if somebody can just make a comment. Oh, a bit of a glitch in the system. Oh dear me. Let's see if it's going to work or not. Robert Knight, good evening. Hopefully this is working. I'm really not too sure. We've got horrible weather down here in North Devon and no doubt everywhere else. So Phil, how you doing, sir? John, oh that's good. Some comments are coming through. But yeah, so living in the middle of the boonies has its issues. Mick, Justin, how you doing? Good evening, good evening. Tom Bent, I hear it's your birthday. Many happy returns. Yeah, that was yesterday. I know, getting old now, re-old. Thank you very much, Tom. Terry, good evening. Neil, good evening. I shall let a few people join in. Colin, how you doing? Pete Paddock, good evening, good evening. Vince, all the way from Canada, with the beautiful photos. Vince, Matthew Wright, my man down here. Andre, all the way from Slovakia. Wayne Hartle, how you doing? So great, lots of people dropping in. So what I'm going to do first of all, if you're new here, just to remind, every Sunday I have my live feed. Obviously, Dean, how you doing? This one's on the main Pallatrax page. Every other week I go onto the team page. So obviously, as I say, we're on the main Pallatrax. But every Sunday we always have a little raffle. So all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning the following prize, which I shall show you very shortly, is ping a message through to the Pallatrax Facebook Messenger page. And if you want to enter it, all you've got to do is say yes. And then in about 3/4 of an hour, we'll pull somebody's name at random out of the hat. And so what are you in with a chance to win tonight? Well, it's some products that have yet to hit the market. Obviously, lots of team members here, but if you're not on the team, and the Team Pallatrax is free to join, lots of competitions and loads of stuff goes on in Team Pallatrax. It's a really nice angling community. Paul, how you doing? So anyhow, back to the question. So some of our fantastic grips hooks, you may well have heard of them. They really are a third hook design. And then we've got these are the new really strong pre-drilled, boosted, flavoured, everything hook baits. Lee, how you doing? Robert Gleed. So you've got one in pineapple and you've got one with the disgusting smelling wild crab. Now, if you on Team Pallatrax, you might have seen that our friend Neil Denton, a team member, is over in Italy at the moment, and he's just had last night a 68 pounder on this. So I promise you, this wild crab especially, I say it smells pretty damn awful. But yeah, so there's some squabs there and some boys in the pile. So you've got that. So all you got to do is, hi Carl. All you got to do is Kevin. Ping that over. So Pallatrax Facebook Messenger page, just ping yes, and you'll be entered for the draw. So as it was pointed out yesterday, and I'm just going to embarrass Matthew Rice. He's Matthew is my wingman down here at Ashton's Pools, and this is what he made for me for my birthday. Right, let me press the button. So yeah, these are made of metal. And they're pretty amazing. This is a burnished one, and I must admit my favourite is this. And I say it's all proper metal. Some real artwork gone in there. So Matthew Rice, I have to show it. But say, you know, solid metal and pretty. It's even got these scales buffed in. So yeah, it's just nice to get something like that for my Christmas present. Sorry, my birthday present. Hint, hint, Matt, Christmas present. So yeah, it's yeah, just something of beauty. I shall leave there. Right, just for well, for everybody. Hi, Dave. Yeah, it is a stunning fish, isn't it? I think you've had a fish as well, haven't you, Dave? Just to remind grab a drink. Hang on a second, there's some bits and pieces. I'm all over the place at the moment, as is known. So if you're on Team Pallatrax, as I say, you can join that. Don't forget, there's a really good prize. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what, I'll put it all out here. Competition's still got a week to run, because I say we run those competitions. Let me just turn my screen round. And yeah, so there's all that pile of goodies there. There's grips and stones and bits and pieces. Net float from solar. So if you haven't joined, entered that on Team Pallatrax, it's free to join. So just make sure and it's free to enter. So just go on and you'll see that. So right. Hi Lee, how you doing? Rich Shaw, belated birthday. Yeah, birthday. Yeah, thanks, Rich. Just on note, and again, I have to cross back and forth from Team Pallatrax here. £24 comment on the test bait alpha. Well done, mate. Well done. These acrylic sheets, they are available and back in stock for the team exclusive on the Team Pallatrax exclusive page. So those people that were asking, they're back in stock. Hi Tony, how you doing? So right, I feel like one of those channels. Look at it, it is a thing of beauty. Sue Graham, how you doing, Sue? Hope you're feeling better all the way from up in Durham. So, right, loads of things on the menu here. I'm going to get really confused. So, no doubt, as always, it will go horribly wrong. Right, what I'm going to try and show you here, folks. And if you've got any questions, do wait until I'm a bloke. I can only do one thing, and even that struggle at this age. One thing at one time. So just bear with me, because what I'm going to show you, some of you will have seen before. Hang on a second. A flavoured water. I'm on a diet. It's terrible. Great stuff, Sue. We'll speak soon. So right, what I'm going to show you is float ledgering and how to set it up and how easy it is to set up, how underrated it is. This time of year when bites are finicky, hard to come by, it's a fantastic target. It's a fantastic tactic. And I'm going to show you how I do it up. Hi Steve, how are you doing? Right, so we're going to bear with me, folks. Let me whiz my screen around. So what do you need? You don't need a great deal of stuff, but there's just a couple of things to show you. So you need a waggler. Okay, so that's the main thing. Oh man, catching up, Lee. So this is actually, oh, it's already going wrong. Well, this is actually, hang on a second, bear with me, it's going to be worth the wait. If I can, right, my little battery. So this is these floats, I get these from Hungary, but they've really got a bright tip to them, so I can fish them in these conditions, you know, in the winter. Great to have a great big thing like that sat out in front of you, so you can really detect a bite. So, what is the next stage? So the first thing you do, God, not quite Blue Peter, is it? So the first thing you do is you set this, and this is these little float stops. You've probably all seen them. These are really small, really cheap off eBay. And or Amazon or anything like that. Free as much now. So the first thing you do is you slide one of those up your line, and all you ever done, if you've never used a float stop before, let me just show you on another bit of line. So you pop that through, and then you literally just, let me try and get in closer. Always get into a bit of a tiz-was, Robert, always. Some people like that about this, because I'm always making mistakes. So there you go. So that'll be on. So then you put your float on, and as I've done here, put your float on, and then you've got a second one. And then that basically goes down, and the next thing is you put your small little stone on there, because we're still going to use this as a method feeder. You can still flavour it and all those kind of things. Let me, 1 second, my screen's gone. That's better. So, and then you don't have to, as you can see by that bead's not moving, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So you can set the depth. So you're going to fish this over depth, but here you can set how long. You don't have to use a swivel unless it's a rig. So if I want to use a rig, this is something we play around with down here for float fishing, which is just basically a baby LQ rig with no hair on it, because we load it with maggots, but you can obviously have hair or a band on that. So that would go on there, or could go on there. But I just like fishing that with a hook and maggots. So basically, hi Sam. So if you can see, so I can use this compression bead, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. And I can move that down and up, so I can have a longer tail or a longer trace, but I haven't got a swivel. Don't need a swivel, haven't got one. I'm float fishing, and do we need swivels? In some situations we got them, we don't need to use them. So therefore I just put a hook on that. And so that would literally just be like a mini stone system. I'd wrap my method mix around that, and then you cast out and you cast over depth. Okay, so what you do is you move, you'd have one set down there, and then you'd move this up to this one here to over depth. I hope I'm making sense here. Over depth. And what you do then is you tighten down, and as you tighten down, your float will hit this stop, and then you'll be fishing like that, like so. So basically that's it. It is such a great way of fishing, and the thing is, you can fish it quite a distance. You know, you can fish it for all species. I love fishing for tench like this way, you know, in the spring, roll on the spring. So you don't, like I say, you don't need to have a swivel. So what I'm going to do to show you, me invented fishing line, I'm all over the place. So what we've got here is, this is one of my compression beads. Let's see if I can get this in the zone so you can see it. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that very well, but basically there's a very, very small hole on this side, and on this side you've got, it's just a shame. Let's see if we can get this light over here to show you in there. I don't think you'll be able to see it, folks, unfortunately. But basically it's a float stop in that end. So just one of these float stops is put on the line, okay? But before you do that, you put on this bead. So I'll show you what to do. Now there's a right way and the wrong way of doing this. So these beads have got a larger hole at one end and a smaller hole at the other. So you need to make sure, all right, so you've got, this is the, I'm really struggling to show you this. But anyway, so what you would do is you put you can put this on first or second, but you put that on, but you have to make sure that the line goes through the smaller hole. Okay? And then all we're going to do is put up another of these float stops. I've now lost my float stops. Really on form tonight. Put that on like so. Draw that up. And then these beads, because they're a compression style bead, all you've got to do then is push that inside. Alright, so I don't know if you can just see the top of that, but you can push that all the way in there, and then that basically firmly holds everything in place. If it does move because you're on a lower diameter, you know, a finer line, just have another one of those there. But that won't move unless you give it a bit of pressure. You can move it up and down, and then you can either, like I say, you can fish a rig on that or just tie your hook straight to that, move that down. Your stone would then basically fall down against that. And like I say, I like to then just do exactly the same, put some method mix around there, and my hook with maggots is just holding up the bottom. Too much birthday. I only have one, Stephen. I only have one. So this is what I'm saying to you is don't think, don't be a one-trick pony, so to speak, and only fish, flat on the bottom, nothing else. This allows you to much better bite indication because you've literally, watching the float tip. And also it allows you to change the angle of your line as it's going down through the water. But honestly, it's a really awesome way to fish, and you can scale up, scale down for different species. Like I said, it's great for the... What size diameter line are you using? This is what I've got here. This is the 0.36, so the Gamma 0.36, which is the 23-pound baking strain. So there. Hi Mark, how you doing? So that's what I've got on that. And obviously these float stops are for even finer line, but these are I'll try and find a link if I can to these on but they come in a packet like that, and you get like 300 per packet, so lots of these, and like I say, they can be used in other ways if you're just general float fishing or one thing or another. But please don't ever think, hi Andy, how you doing? You can't float fish for carp, because I tell you can. And if you look and speak to people like Tim Hodges, it really is a way they catch so many really big fishes. Sun at Lequy, Bob, but don't think you can't float fish for carp, as in like on the deck with the stone system. It really is very simple, because if you think about it, yes, I've got a bead there, so the top bit there of the bead and the swivel is man-made. This is just natural. This is a natural stone, folks, if you haven't fished with the stones before. So that's your weight, that's your anchor point, that's what you can put your method mix round. And like I say, if you want to have a longer tail, and I like fishing shorter, but so a shorter tail, so you just pull it along, and like I say, you're almost match fishing style, but for carp, because then you just wrap your paste or wrap your method mix around there and on the hook. But obviously, like I say, if you want to fish a hair rig, or you want to fish some other kind of rig, it's easily done. But I promise you folks, it's just an amazing way of fishing, really exciting, yeah, it's another way for us to fish. And this time of year, it's so finicky. I love fishing like that all year round. I wish I'd done it a lot earlier in my kind of fishing journey in the last 25 years, because I think I've missed a lot of opportunities. Especially, you've got 3 rods. Why am I not having one out of a float rod and sitting there paying attention, being on the game? The match angle, I'm as terrible as everybody else. Gets a bit chilly, and I'll be Andy's been fishing, great fun. Yeah, it is. I'll be snuggled up in my sleeping bag or whatever, but when actually should be really out there paying attention, watching the float and watching the water and watching the rod tips on the ones that might be out on the bottom. So if you haven't tried it, it's great fun. It opens up a different dynamic, another kind of string to our bow. And it's easy done. It's not complicated. I probably made it look complicated, but in actual fact, it's really a few component parts. So it's cheap to do in the big scheme of things, but it's uber effective. And you will see. Where is it? Where's my float gone here? Let me just pull this all off. And this is what I always say to people. So you've got your float there. So let's just say you set it there. This is the water. If that's doing that, you're going to hit that. And this is going back to bite detection now. So if we just say that is the line going through the rollers on your alarm, you'd be hitting that, and you won't get that kind of indication as far back on your alarm. So just remember, your alarms aren't anywhere near as accurate as detecting a bite as this will ever be. Because I say, you see that, or you're sitting there and suddenly you see that, that means it's like almost a drop back. So basically the fish is taking pressure off and moving up in the water. So you'd be hitting that, but we don't hit these because they don't show. They will not show. It doesn't matter how awesome your alarm is, how expensive one thing or another. It's so, when you're on the deck, it changes the whole dynamic of bite detection. because you're going along the bottom. And the further out, the further off you are, you know, again, your bite detection lowers and lowers and lowers. Hi, Stephen. Well, I'm missing a couple of questions. So it's the same idea when float fishing for pike, but a bit more sensitive. Exactly, Stephen. Exactly. It's just float ledgering. You know, and it's not something that I think, unfortunately, I think it's to the detriment of all of us and the industry. These areas of fishing don't get seen. Is it because it doesn't really cost a lot? You know, me being cynical, Simon, but you really don't need to spend a lot on setting this up. It's great fun, really versatile, but your sensitivity of bite. And then once you start watching that, then you start realising how your alarms are. I have my little thing, electronic liars, and they'll tell you something. People go, "Oh, a liner? Is it a liner? Was that not just a bite?" So that's why I hit, especially this time of the year, why I tend to hit, you know, almost any beat, because I know that the amount of line that's shifted, even though I have my alarms up on full sensitivity, they're still not giving me that kind of indication. It's really good. It's really cheap. It's really easy. So what did Dean say here? Hang on a second. I usually have float rod and go fishing the margins at the same time as fishing on the bottom, and caught a few decent carp from doing so. Well, this is what I'm saying, Dean. I didn't do it enough. At my old lakes, I had specimen just about everything flopping around in there, and I was so focused. 3 rods in the winter, got massive pike in there, big perch, all those kind of stuff. But I was so obsessed back in those days, and you can't wind the clock back, can you? You know, hindsight is a great leveler. But the fact is, if I'd spent the amount of time I was spending out on the bank, if I'd spent that with a rod doing something different tactically, I'd have still caught carp if I'd set it up for carp, but all the other species that I should have been fishing for, like, you know, like I say, you can, for perch, it's a great system, and then you just have a bigger hook, like a size 2 or a size 4 hook, wide gape, and you just trap on a shrimp or prawn or things like that. So it's very versatile from bait changes and things like that. So yeah, you're right on there, Dean. Right, where are we now? What's Andy saying? It's been used to go for tinkers, but keep catching carp. Great action when you get. Well, that's the thing. You tend to do. You know, you tend to overfish sometimes, and get so obsessed with the carp, and there's all these other species, and I think because we don't tactically really fish them very effectively, when it is so easy, as I just showed you there, to set up a really effective way of fishing. So just have it in the back of your mind. I know all these kind of deck kind of tactics get promoted above everything else, but don't forget old school. Don't forget how we used to do it. It never broke. Things have changed in the industry, especially the money side of it. So it's all changed. Lots of things have changed. And a lot of things that were developed over centuries have now just been forgotten. I see a lot of these, and all respect to them. I'm not trying to, sorry, I've got, all right, hang on a second. I've got, but yeah, so in essence, what I'm saying is, don't forget there's other ways of fishing. There's other baits to be fished. You know, it's something that I used to catch on the Trent as a kid. Loads of fish on float fish tears, which is a seed, a pulse, and why don't I fish with it anymore? And I ask myself that all the time, and it's just, I suppose I'm just lazy. I should go and get some off the internet and cook them up and go back on fishing tears. Great bait, and the fish love it. So, you know, good protein. Neil, I have used Polatrax float that did it similar way, but couldn't get used to it. Yeah, nothing. Again, I'm possibly with you there, Neil. Nothing against Polatrax. They look right, you know, really good. I've got them, but I've never ever managed to set them how I can set this float setup. And it's so sensitive, and I can have it at different levels, and it moves at different levels. Whereas I kind of would fish with Polatrax, and it kind of almost got stuck at the level I was fishing on. So if I wanted to fish deeper water or shallow water, I had to reel in and kind of muck around with a bit. But obviously, loads of people use them, and they're probably a very good product. But this to me is simpler and a lot cheaper and a lot easier to use, and in my humble opinion, more sensitive to the bite, whatever the species you're going for. What's Dave saying here? I was about to mention Polatrax floats. Our lake is around 14 foot in places. Well, like I say, that will work. That will work. The nice thing about it is, because you've got the float stop, it's only that tiny little float stop right at the top. So it's actually quite easy to fish deep water with that. Even if the little float stop comes through the eyes of your hooks, eyes of your rod. It's not the best to cast, but you can still, if it's 12-foot rod, you can still go 14, 15 foot. But it's obviously the casting element is always difficult. But don't forget the stone, so that your float would just fall down. Yeah, so that would be there when you cast out, and then when it hits the deck and everything slackens off, this will then travel up the line to that stop there, and that will create the position. So all you've got to do is move that up to the depth you want to fish, and this will just travel up, because it's obviously floating. That will just travel up your line. Does that make sense? Hope so. Right, where are we? Yeah. I'm missing. I've been using mussels as bait. The can't love them. I'll tell you what, funny story about mussels. Again, we should never ever. I know I've got a bait company, but the one thing I'll say to you is don't just buy man-made baits. When you do, make sure they're good quality. It's all about the ingredients. But there is so many things, and I asked Tinny to go and get me some mussels, just normal mussels, and she went to Tesco's. This is years and years ago, fresh fish counter, and she came back with a box of green lip mussel. It's really not the easiest stuff to hook on, but there is ways, so I've unfrozen them, defrost them, sorry, and just went fishing with them, and the tench, everything, just love them. And apparently, we know we use green lip mussel in the bait manufacturing industry. I use it in a powder format, full of natural betaine and some other real goodies in there. So so whole mussels, literally the tench would have a whole mussel just like I say, just float fished on that system. So great baits. I'd say there's so many baits out there that have been disregarded, and I suppose the irony is, these baits have been proven. We know why they work, because they're, basically the natural ingredient profile, their protein value, they're proper food for fish. But we've kind of steered ourselves away to end up with the man-made sector and really no real focus. Look at sweet corn. For whatever, sweet corn, I personally think it's because of the natural sugar content. Whatever, I'm not a fish, I don't know, but you've got to admit, lots of fish get caught on real sweet corn. I'm not a fan of plastic personally, being a fishery owner, but so why aren't we? You look at Lequy, the amount of fish out of Lequy that gets caught on. They feed the lake maize, and so many fish get caught on maize. And I know it doesn't look, dare I say the word, carpy. It's not a boilie, but the fact is you don't have to fish boilies. And when you do, just remember each individual boilie can mean a lot of different things, because it is genuinely about the ingredients. Just because it's red and round and smells of strawberries, it's what the whole thing's made of is important. But mussels are a good one. So, hi Simon, we are netting here at Ivor Lodge in the next few weeks. Just wondering, are you intend to net Ashmansworthy Pools? If you don't know, Ashmansworthy Pools is my new Nate complex down here. No, to be honest, I don't need to, because we put perch in there right at the beginning, and though we had some small fish come through, but there's no silvers, there's no other species in there other than the carp. So all I do now, and we kind of proved the point last year, was that you can get these little, they fold down, they're like little lobster pots, and they all fold down. You just pull the top and it comes open, and you feed them, and I stick those out into the margins after about a month after the spawn, when the fry is still, they're still tiddy, and they will go in there, and then you can move them. So that's all I do. But because I haven't got any silvers or anything like that, I don't need to net. It would be I'm not somebody that likes. The only way to effectively net is I used to have nets at my old fishery. the only way to effectively net is you can't. You know, there's too many contours. The bottom, you know, it's very, very difficult. So one of the reasons I decided not to have any silvers here is because I didn't want them eating the food that we're giving. You know, we're feeding the fish and the naturals that they'll eat above it. So I don't need to. I know a lot of people do. One of the things I don't like is they don't like seeing fisheries dropping themselves. If you have to drop, I suppose, you know, it can mainly be emergency. So if you drop to get fish out, you really are disturbing the substrate and all those kind of things. So I'd rather just leave my lakes, and I don't need to net them. If I ever did have a problem where I had a really aggressive spawn, lots of fish in there, you know, I could get a spot net, feed up and just spot net a corner. But I used to have these big nets and used to put them out all over and then there's a whole crew of us dragging them in, and you'll be dragging them in, and you can see fish going down around the sides of you, and you feel them knocking your legs, and it was so kind of archaic. And then you get it in, and it was all exciting because you're getting it in, and then like there's one roach sat in the middle of it, and you think, and because your net's rucked up as you're bringing it in, all the fish have just gone underneath it. So it is always a challenge netting, bit of fun, bit of laugh. Trouble is, you do it this time of year, it's really cold. But fortunately for me, the way I've set this up, I shouldn't need, there would be no point in me netting. If anything, it would be daft, because as I say, as soon as you drop it to a level, my lakes are deep as well, you know, you start getting into the substrate and turning everything up, and yeah, it can give you other problems, unfortunately. So yeah, so good luck with yours, but fortunately I don't have to do that. That's why I bought the same float as you. There we go. Yeah, Neil's got one of those bright lights. What make is the float that you use? These are by they're called iBite. I bring them back to front and whatever. Can you see that? You'll have to read that. It's going to be back to front, isn't it? But yeah, iBite, and like I say, they really are good bits of kit, because. Like I say, in the wind, because you're using a waggler, they really are. But then if I don't want the light on, I would just literally take the battery out, put the battery in there, back in its housing, but back to front, so the connection's not in there, and then I can just fish that as normal during the daytime. And then as soon as it gets dusk and dark, I'll switch the light on, and you'd be surprised how bright these are. So I'm just going to try, hang on a sec, let's just try it. Let's just show you. This isn't the brightest one either, to be fair. So there you go, let me turn that light off. So you can see the whole stem lights up. Like Darth Vader, isn't it? So Darth Vader. So yeah, so they're uber bright. And yeah, they work really, really well. I am looking at bringing more of them in, because I do think they're very well. I used to get, again, not having a go, but I'm just like everybody else, just an angler. If I can't make it myself, I have to go and buy it. And I've had some of the ones off of eBay. They just keep on breaking on me when you pull them apart. So I found out about these, and yeah, they're not the cheapest things in the world. They're a proper bit of kit, but it's like E.T.'s finger. So let's have a go where we're going back. iBite, there we go. So Paw Power. Why do most manufacturers make boilies round? I do know, but lots don't, Pom. Simply, and this you'll either believe me or not. Like I say, I'm just like you folks. I got parachuted in this industry, and obviously 25 years later, I'm still going strong. That might be a bit of I'm still going, you know. And the only reason boilies are made round is for all the wrong reasons. In many things in life, it's all about profitability. So basically, it's the cheapest shape to make in mass production. Yeah, anything with size, if you look at when I make my squabs take 2 times as long to make as a boilie, because they don't just fall off the wheels, they don't run down your tubes. When you're air drying them, you can't just shake them because they're obviously not moving. But if you think about it, why are we fishing a round shape? I don't fish round. I sell round shapes because people want them, you know, and that's fair enough. But I do caution, you know, if you're looking for all these minute edges, why are you fishing with something that A, has got no size on ejection, and B is actually totally wrong because it's a shape that moves the quickest underwater. So the front of a submarine, for example, or front of a big ship, you'll see a big bulb on it. That's because it's displacing water. I want something to hold up in the mouth, something to oscillate. It's purely, and I can promise you, if we all sat around a big, huge, massive table and all said, right, what shape are we going to make this new bait concept of the boilie? Anybody suggesting round from a tactical point of view would actually be telling you the wrong thing, because there's no tactical. The only thing, and people have said this to me before, hand on heart, is, because I've raised this question, Paul, as you know, and people who are in the industry, deep in industry, and they say, well, because it's throwing sticks. And you sit there and think, well, we didn't invent the throwing stick, which only a small amount of people use, I would add, consistently and accurately. And then think, well, we've got this stick, what are we going to do now? I'll tell you what, we'll make this round thing and we'll be able to throw it out. No, the only advantage of round is if you use a throwing stick. Personally, I don't use things like throwing sticks anymore. I was never very good at it because I used, and I was going to talk about this, again, a well-known thing, but this is something that definitely was an innovation in bait delivery, which is the SPOM. And the reason I've got it here is, don't forget accurate feeding, especially in the winter. Now, I take these when I just go float fishing, and I might be float fishing. Let's just say I can't. Let's just say it's at 20 foot. All right, so I can catapult out, yeah, of course. But if I use this and half fill it with maggot or some slop, and I'm only going to put, you know, whatever amount out. I'm not going to put a lot of bait out. It's the match tactic, little and often. So if I'm getting bites, I'll put a little bit more out. In the winter, fish, due to the water temperature, everything slows down. They don't eat a lot. But when you are fishing, especially in the winter, you need to be accurate and you need to be baiting out accurately. And I know it might seem a bit odd, but I can promise you, and you can get smaller ones than this. This is the SPOM, the original SPOM, and I think personally the best one that's out there. Other people have come and tried other things. Obviously, as soon as the water hits that'll ping open, it will be like that, and everything will just drop out. But don't think, you know, to not use something like that, even if you're close in. You don't, it's just about accurate. You know, you mark up on this, you mark up on your rod, and you can fish at close quarters. It's not just a distance machine. If it's past a point where you can literally, let's just go back to float fishing, where you can actually hand feed into it. But as soon as you get on a catapult, you know, or throwing it, you say, oh, it's got 2 foot past it. Whereas every time you can put it on the zone, clipped up, go back out to it. So yeah, just don't think you shouldn't use those in the winter. It's all about, again, the ingredients. So what you're going to put in there. If it's a load of high protein, you know, I've always said you don't want to buy much of my boil baits because of the protein content. You know, you're going to overfeed the fish. So you do it, and it's a question that I've been asked, and I've been asked here, how much, who's this, Ali O'Mahony, I hope I spelled that right. How much do you reduce the amount of bait used in winter? And it's that's very interesting, as in the word bait. What does the word bait mean? This is the thing I try to explain to people when they come down to Ashmansworthy pools and they go, well, how much bait do you need? And it's like, well, what is your bait made of? I see people saying, oh, I'm fishing over 20 kilos of boilies. And you go, yeah, but what's it made of? You know, because it's not, a boilie isn't made of boilie, it's made of some form of ingredients, the good, the bad and the ugly. But if it's high protein, you know, high nutritional value, your fish won't be able to physically eat much. If we're staying with carp here, you know, you may or may not know they've got a thing called a digestive tract. So it's just a tube, literally. So it goes past the flandules into this tube where the flandules crush it down if need be into this long tube, and then the waste gets excreted. And so as the food is going through the tube, the nutrients are being drawn out of it. If it's got nothing, it will just go through and pass through and be gone. And fish learn very quickly. If it's not food, they won't kind of eat it. You know, they might pick it up, and then people think, oh, I've caught a fish on this. And it's like, well, it's just picked it up. It's not actually eating it. You can't eat it because it's on the hair. Does that make sense? because bait is a big thing. You know, if you go out there and like I say, how much do you use? Of course, yes, we're looking at using less in the summer, warmer months. Fish are moving around, therefore they're exerting energy, and they have to replace it, and they replace it with food. And because they're moving around, they become easier to catch, and one thing or another. But this time of year, when they're moribund, so they're sitting up over the next few months till the water's temperature starts coming up again. They'll be sat at some level, and every now and again they'll have a little munch. And you don't want to pile in loads of bait, whatever you make of it, but you don't need one, because the thing is, even if you're fishing on a good bait, which I hope you are, because it makes a huge difference, the ingredient concept of a good bait and a bad bait, you know, boilie or pellet or just about anything, to be quite honest. But, you know, then you mathematically increase. So say you put out 100 boilies, for example, nothing wrong with them, good bait, yada yada, but you're actually fishing for fish so that are hardly eating anything. Every now and again you'll have a cycle. And it's quite interesting by owning lakes, like my old lakes at Pallington, nothing around the lakes for 24 hours, and then suddenly you'd hear alarms going off all around the complex because they've just gone on the munch. But if you put loads out there, mathematically the odds of them picking up your bait is greatly reduced. So a tight bait, accurate fishing, that's how I was taught by Baldy Dave. Get it right on that spot, be as accurate as possible, but just put enough, almost like a snack. You don't want to put a load of bait out there and just sit on it, and you know it doesn't work. And again, if you look at the match angler and watch the match angler how they fish, you know we can learn an awful lot, little and often. And in the warmer months, often is more often, whereas in the winter months it's still the same principle, but it's obviously less because fish just aren't eating as much. So there you go, Paul. Thank you for that question. What's it going? Here, hang on a second, folks. I like the wolf spawn, definitely game changer. That's from Neil. Haven't seen that, Neil, to be fair. Have you tried the coram boppers? They drop the feed on the bottom rather up in the water. I haven't, but again, if you think about going back, James, in the old days, and it's gone right out of my head, is we used to. Bait droppers. So literally they were like a cage affair. You can still get them, and you fill them up with maggots or hemps or tares, and you'd throw it out, and as it hit the deck, so it would do that basically. As it hit the deck, it would open up, so it would be on the bottom. And again, the thing I like about the spawn and fishing it on the top and letting it all drop down through the water columns is all I'm trying to do is reach out to the olfactory system of the fish. So I want to spread the kind of the sicky element of it, so the watery element of it, I want that to spread out and percolate out across the venue and draw fish back in. But no, it's a proven, and again, it's all about that accuracy, James. Accuracy alongside, and this is the thing, alongside a relevant bait. Don't just go and say, well, I'm fishing pellets. Make sure that's not a chicken or a pig pellet, because I've seen people use that kind of stuff. It's not for fish. It's not good for the water quality. It's not good for your angling as well. You know, why do you think a fish would actually feed on something that's been developed for a pig? I'm not saying they wouldn't, but I certainly wouldn't recommend it, because you can get pellets out there, great pellets, that are actually designed scientifically at a much higher level than any of us can do in the boilie market, by pure science. They're producing, and a lot of my formulation of things and how I approach it is what I've learned from that fish farming side of things, and how they feed fish and what they feed fish on, and decent quality pellet, fantastic. Just always make sure what is your bait made of. It's not just the name. What's this? Let me just go through. You can make your own bait droppers from a tuna tin. Sue's off. Take care, Sue. Yeah, so have a look at the bait droppers. But like I say, what it does give you, it gives you the ability. And going back to what James says, when you're fishing moving waters, in all honesty, that's no good, because everything, or the majority of it, will just, depending on the depth and the flow of water, will go all over the place. I'm not saying it can't be used to some degree, but you really want the bait as quickly down as possible on the deck, and you're fishing over that lump of bait. I like fishing the method in the river. Hardly anybody fishes the method on the river, and I don't really know why. People say it'll break down too quickly and things like that. We'll just manipulate it with some fish oil or something like that, so the oil content in it pushes the water away, so your method mix will stay bonded and just disintegrate a lot slower. You can just play around with it. So but it all boils down back to this accuracy. What's Dean said? I use bent crumb mixed with crushed boilies, hemp and sweet corn as my particle with pellet, boilie with worms and maggot for hook baits. Adding bread has helped me catch more in the colder months. Well, yeah, bread's you know, for strange bread, isn't it? And the fact is, why do fish eat it? Why do you think it is? But if you look at bread, it's got a lot of sugars and things like that in it. That's why it's not the healthiest stuff for us to eat. But it does. You know, fish are drawn in sweet. You could do so many things with it. So, but all I would suggest is you don't want to put too much in it. But what it does also do, like I say, it gets out into the water really quickly. You know, you can create this kind of slop with it. And it does attract fish and it does draw fish in, and it's cheap. It's cheap. You just don't want to use too much of it, because don't forget, it isn't a food content for the fish. They'll eat it, but it's not particularly good for them. That's why people say don't feed them to ducks and things like that. Everything eats it. We're eating it all the time with our sandwiches and toast and bacon butties and things like that. But it's not actually particularly good for us. Right, where are we going? There was another one there. Stand by, folks. If I missed... Noel's saying, I do a ton of fishing with Luxem's bigger stones. They're here. We make... Oh, look at the size of that one. We make them all here, so they're produced all here in Devon. So if you've got particular wants, we just say, just phone us up. I like fishing the flat ones on the river, so the water goes over the top of them. But to be fair, we do them up to about 10 ounces. So, you know, it's obviously physically it's bigger, but you're still getting the weight that you need. Obviously, a lot of picked carp anglers, especially in Europe, are using bait boats, so they want to take it out a long distance, so they want a bigger weight, heavier weight to hold it in place. You know, just use a bigger stone. So they are available now. They are available. If you've ever got any kind of wants, you can just phone us up at the office and we'll look after you. Carl Chip is saying he's been angling direct today. Oh, sorry. What's that? Oh, dear me, folks. No, sorry. I just seen what you said. We only do the large ones in the swivel version currently. So if you're looking for inline, sorry. But do try the normal standard. So what's Carl saying? Was looking at the bait troppers in angling direct today. Remember seeing them in the old school fishing manuals when I was a kid. I fished method on the river good regularly. Just got to get the bait mix right for the flow and depth. Exactly. It's a marvellous way of fishing, and so many anglers don't. One of the questions I had was, what rig do I use in river fishing? And to be quite honest, I don't really change too much. I mean, the easiest rig I do fish with is, and you know, and obviously everybody's got their different. I'll turn the camera around a second. Let me just move this off. I mean, this is. I will fish the LQ rig. Where am I going to go? It's very dark. Let me just move that around. But anyhow, so that is just my Steam Link normal rig, and I still fish relatively short in the river because I'm still fishing the method, and I can put a hair on that, and I can fish a cube of lunch meat or whatever bait I decide. So that's just the Steam Link. But the other one I use, this is the only other rig I use, to be fair, is just fluorocarbon. So I've got a fluorocarbon, I've got a serious shrink kicker over that, and then fluorocarbon. And I think the reason fluorocarbon works, that's it, we're in shape. You see how, and this is why I saw somebody the other day, he'd put this through that end, so the whole dynamic changes. But you need to always come through this. And what this naturally does, it naturally forms a kicker. So it's very, very efficient in turning because of this And so it's the stiffness of the fluorocarbon. Obviously on gin clear waters, we know fish have got eyes, so I'm going to fish fluorocarbon, whether it makes any difference or not, or whether it's just a confidence thing, but it is more abrasion resistant. It's great. Fluorocarbon's got a greater diameter to breaking strain compared to a monofilament, but it is more abrasion resistant, so slightly thicker. The concern is when we're talking slightly thicker, we are looking at the fish being able to detect it more through the fact that they can sense changes in water pressure and things like that. But I really don't overcomplicate things. I think we now suffer, and shoot me down in flames, feel free. I've been doing this for a long time. I've owned a couple of tackle shops, and I was with Matt today. We were like messing around with, actually it's here, how easy it is to make up a helicopter rig with some very simple components. And so we're going back to that bead that we had on the float rod, and it's easy to set up a helicopter rig, a safe helicopter rig using that. But that isn't why we're so over-engineered. So we've got a steam link rig, we've got 2 beads, and we've got a stone. So if you're with me, that's part of nature, so take it out. So that's the man-made element I'm fishing on. And it really does, we don't need a lot of the stuff we're being told. And I don't want to criticise the industry. Of course, people need to make money. It's a business and things like that. But sometimes just stand back and think, do we really need to fish this complicated? There's stuff out there that manufacturers are bringing out, very much at the moment, that I would really question whether it would do anything better to help you catch more fish, or in actual essence, is it going to work against you by being so obtrusive and cumbersome? Painting something green does not make it disappear. And the irony is, if you look around at all these lead weights and all the patterns on them, none of them are like these. These are the natural colours of stones. These are the natural colours of stones. These are British stones. So just be careful. A lot of stuff out there might work in a very niche situation, but it doesn't mean it's going to work over the mass situations. And that's what, to be fair, again, I was talking to Tim Hodges earlier today, and we were talking about the subject of that. Is this stuff now moving people away? So people say, I'm fishing on a Ronnie rig, and then you ask everybody, or 10 people, 10 different anglers from, let's just say, around the country to send you a Ronnie rig. So really, it should be all the same. If it's on the same hook look material, you look at these rigs, and I see them down here when people come to Ashford's early pools. They're all over the place. Different lengths, different hook link materials, different hooks, different hair lengths, different bait sizes. And so you're ending up with inconsistencies. And I think that's a big problem in modern fishing, is we're actually not fishing consistently. We might think we are, because we're saying we're fishing with a Ronnie rig and we're fishing with a bait. But what is your bait made of? And is that Ronnie rig like the original concept of the Ronnie rig? Personally, as you know, because of Steam Link, I don't think, and the fact is it's Dyneema, I don't think I can get better rotation than that. And that's a lot less obtrusive and works a lot better, in my opinion. And every time you will get the rig exactly the same. So you're fishing, and that's when we fish here, we're all fishing and we're all catching fish because we know we're fishing on a consistent system. Match fishing again. It all comes from the proven elements of match fishing. Right, let's move on. Sorry, folks. You know what I'm like. I do warble away. Yes, inline is the best. I've been using smaller ones. We've just fished such a simple system with the stone, and the swivel stone works in many ways. You're going to get a better presentation on a river with a swivel stone, because if you think of the profile of a inline, but I understand if you're confident in inlines, and we know a stone in a stony river makes absolute common sense, but do try it. No, you'll be quite surprised, to be quite honest. Again, we get stuck. We can start. I'm not saying you're stuck now, but we can get stuck. Right, this is the way I do it, and I'll always do it. And I'll tell you one of the funniest things, and I'm not here to rattle anybody's cage. I hate any negativism within fishing, because I think it should be a big family. We should all be doing this together and all in it together. But like I say, if there's stuff we're using that doesn't really actually make any sense once you research it, should we be using it? Lots of reinvention of the wheel going on, isn't it? It's a lot simpler, and like I say, I plead to everybody, do think. I mean, hang on a second, I said this the other day, I should say this on every live feed, to be fair. You can get these Fisherman's Handbooks off of eBay, and this is what I grew up in the 70s, a long time ago. It is 50 odd years ago now, and it's horrible. And you'll see so much information. There was no paid for advertising. I'm part of the industry, I pay for advertising. That's the way of the world, you know. But at the end of the day, there's no, nothing in here. You'll see, I always, everything that you can think of, or I've ever covered in fishing, multi-species, whatever it is through these fishing handbooks. And like I say, it's all hand drawn. It's all passion. It's not. Let me just give you an example of. That's not a good one. I should take that one out. How to make lead. Actually shows you how dodgy it is as well, and how people have been making leads over the years. But it always makes me, and I'm as there we go. Here's a good page. I'm as bad. I'm wearing my birthday jumper at the moment from my mother, and father. But normally I wear a Pallatrax t-shirt. I kind of live in the stuff now because it's just easy. But if you go back, and this is how different it is. There's somebody there with a carp. Obviously, a bream. Don't even know what fish I'm fishing. So these are bream. Different gentlemen there. There's no branded. They just went fishing for what we all did when we were younger, which was just the joy of fishing. We weren't thinking the marketing, the Facebook, the social media. We just went fishing because we loved the hunt, the camaraderie, all those kind of things. So do look at those. They are really cheap. You can get them, say, on eBay. There's loads of them. I always see them coming up. There are 3 booklets of it, and if you want fantastic Christmas present, stocking fillers. Some of them, mine are a bit tatty now because they've had so much use. Some of them are just pristine, absolutely mint. They come out about £20, and they are so valuable to me, or have certainly helped me in my fishing journey. So. Fisherman's Handbooks, folks, and you'll see that there's no adverts in there, there's no product placement, it's just really passionate old school anglers. So you've got like Bob Church and things like that, really old school accomplished anglers just sharing their knowledge. What's this? Fish a small stone to dead, bottom very silty, also chop free with jumpers hard so they float down the water. Yeah, who was that? I can't see that. It's Dave. Well done, Dave. Yeah, well, I think you've sussed it, haven't you? Dean saying I use a longer hook link than I use on lakes and ponds as my own cast. This is Dean saying my hook is downstream from my feed. Yeah, it's a funny thing, length of rigs, isn't it? So if you think about it, if you tie on a hook to a float rig, so you're just adding it, unless you're joining to get a lower diameter bottom, you're literally just tying it onto the line. So in essence, there isn't any length to the rig because a rig doesn't exist. So since the advent of obviously hair rigs especially, we're using rigs, and then there's that debate on how long that rig should be in different situations. For me, because I tend to be fishing the method, I don't fish a long rig. Some people fish 6-foot rigs and swear by them for barbel and things like that. My concern with something like that is not only just the bite indication, but also, the ultimate presentation. We're assuming that, it's on the deck, it's all flowing off nicely. Now, it might be, but all I would caution is, I talk to a lot of barbel anglers and they say they fish these really long rigs. And I say to them, what happens so you've got a 6-foot rig, so it's going downstream, so Mr. or Mrs. Barbel comes up, or chub, or whatever, carp, could be whatever on the river nowadays, picks your bait up, and then moves forward with it. Because there's no guarantee that they'll race away with it. And this is what I'm saying. So in essence, they're now creating a drop back. But you're not going to get any indication until that fish has gone 12 foot that way. And then if it carries on going that way. So it's like an uptide bite in sea fishing. So there's a lot of movement of fish. And there's a film on YouTube somewhere. It's by a guy called Paul Garner. And he was fishing on the Y, and he had one of those waterwolf cameras. And it was so interesting to see how many times he was getting done, because he was fishing this long tail, and the fish was just coming up, mouthing it, spitting it out. And eventually, I don't know, it was quite a while, and there was loads of fish in his swim. barbel and chub and all bits and pieces. And eventually a little chublet came along and hung itself. No indication at all that it was on there until he basically reeled in. So that's all I say is, for me, I start short and then we'll work longer. If you sat next to me and were out fishing me because you were on a 20-foot hook link, I'll be on a 20-foot hook link as well. But in all honesty, I start as comfortably as short as I can, because I've no chance of tangle, better chance of bite detection, don't need to worry about getting it away from a lead or man-made because I'm using a stone, and that's how I work. I then go up. I don't ever start long and then come down short. I start short, and if I need to move it, but I must admit, I'd say 99% of the time I just fish, you know, 5-inch hook link, whether it be on the river or. But that's not to say there's not variables that I change that at all. But I tend to start short for reasons not to start long, if that makes sense. You know, I'm starting short. Again, I only rabbit way here. I'm just the same as you folks. I'm just another angler. Yeah, I might have done it a lot more, as in over the years and being involved in the trade and things like that. But all I want to do is catch fish and catch fish safely. And I'm not here to tell anybody how to fish. You know, you have to determine, make your own conclusions. I just don't tend to fish like the modern narrative. Doesn't make sense to somebody of me and where I've come from, provably. So don't ever think you have to fish a long hook link wherever and for whatever species. Because you have to realise, you have to have a reason, I would say, to be fishing whatever you are fishing. So if it's a short hook link, I can tell you why I'm fishing a short hook link: bite detection, presentation, all these kind of things. Why am I fishing a long hook link? I then have to start making assumptions. I'm fishing it because it'll look better in the flow or whatever, but I don't really know. But that's how I fish. Less is more in fishing, exactly. We're talking about, from Matt, we're talking about just scaling stuff down, you know, having as little as man-made in your swim as possible. The only thing that you put more of on the right day in your swim that's man-made is bait, and then you have to make sure that bait it's all about the ingredients. I like to see the fluoro hair. I think is a real edge and difficult fish to reject. Thanks for asking the questions. We're on the same wavelength. No, you're more than welcome. More than welcome. I'm only here to try and help. Oh, now I've pressed the wrong button. Where we go? This is why I've been buying pre-tied hair rigs. Everyone is the same, so I know they respect my hook length is simple and consistent. And it's a really, you know, it's all about the consistency. I saw somebody, and please don't think I'm being rude or nasty or anything, but if you're doing something wrong, I'll be the first to try and help. Not for any arrogance or I know-it-all. The one thing I do know is I don't know it all, to be fair, and far from it. But the rig, whatever species you're fishing for, is the trap. It's so important. And so let's look at snaring a rabbit. Okay, so we know, if you're into snaring rabbits, and I'm not, but if you were, you need a round snare. You don't have a square one or anything. You have and then you put it within the run of a rabbit, and so what we're doing, and wait for that to work. All we're doing is exactly the same in many ways. It's like the parallel of it is you're setting a trap, and you're waiting for the fish to come along and set the trap off. Okay, and it's when I see people fishing some of these rigs, they will not work consistently, and it's all about. So I know my rig will work consistently. If you were fishing some really jingly jangly thing and out fishing me, of course I'd be fishing that rig. You know, I see in fishing a lot of times, especially at my last fishery, when people were very, very hush-hush. They weren't telling people what they were catching on. But these really good anglers, and again, go back to the match angler, well, all areas of fishing, it's all about consistency. It's not about inconsistency. Match fishing is the best one, because at the end of the day, to be a good match angler, you've got to be winning. You can't just catch one fish in a blue moon and say, oh, you know, I'm really good at this. I mean, and then you look at the match anglers and the ones that taught me how to fish, and it's all about, you know, my OCD really kicks in and helps. It's the one time it does help me, because everything is exactly the same, exactly how I want it to be. But my interpretations, like I say, I know people on this feed tonight that will prefer fishing with a much longer hair. I don't. I fish with a very, very short hair. And the reason for that is every area of element of fishing I've done, whether it be when I had my boat in Bermuda, or when I had my boats back here, or when I fly fished abroad or here, or lure fished, the bait and the hook is one and the same, if that makes sense. It's only in carp fishing we're really setting it off. And I watch some of this underwater fishing, time and time again I've seen fish picking up the bait, the hair's so long, the bait's never gone, the hook's never gone in the mouth. But each their own, and there's no doubt there will be a situation when a longer hair is better. But I always start off and then work out from there, to be quite honest. But no, buying consistent rigs that have caught you lots of fish time and time again, it needs to be the same trap. It needs to be exactly the same. And that's my caution. A lot of people who tie their own hair rigs, learning on YouTube and things like that. And firstly, I'll be sometimes, some of the stuff I see on there, I just think, please don't fish on that, folks, because they're not particularly safe and they're not particularly good. They won't consistently give you that consistency you need to catch. Makes sense? I hope so. That's Lee. Is that Lee Stokes popping in? Sorry, you know what happens every time I touch the screen. One day somebody will teach me how to do it. Where am I? Oh, my screen goes all over the place. Ian, how you doing? I only use one rig in most of my fishing. This is from Neil, and it's the LQ, as I have so much confidence in it. It caught me so many big fish and small. Yeah, I mean, the LQ rig is obviously a Pallatrax rig. It's the only rig most of us use, because we now focus on all the other important areas, like bait application, what's our bait made of, water location, all these kind of things. We're like, we don't change the rig. If we've got fish in the swim and we're not getting a bite, we don't change the rig. The rig's caught us thousands and thousands of fish. Look at Neil over in Italy, 68 pounder last night. That was on the LQ rigs I tied for him with size 4 wide gapes. It's just such a good rig, so easy to use and so consistent. It's so consistent, which is what it's all about, I think. Hi Christian, you all right? My rig that I've been catching on more recent is the spinner rig. Well, Dean, there's so many interpretations of a hair rig out there, so I don't honestly know what the spinner rig is. I believe probably it's going to be something about doing the rotation around, and that's why I like fishing, as I say, with steam link, because this is Dyneema. It's not braid, that little piece there. So you've got the outer skin, which you steam, and it steams as straight as anything, like a little fishing rod. And what you've got there, because Dyneema is the strongest man-made material by diameter. And so what I've got a huge amount, talking about spinning, huge amount, because that's Dyneema, it's not braid. And so it's very fine fibres, and I'm getting that rotation. But like I say, each to their own. I'm certainly not saying to people you should just copy what I do. I mean, you're more than welcome to, and I'm always keen to help. But just be very careful that you're changing the dynamic by changing the rig. And if you're copying a rig that's successful, it needs to replicate it. You can't just say, well, that's a Ronnie rig. And then the person who developed the first Ronnie rig would hold theirs and go, well, all you've done is called that a Ronnie rig. It's not exactly the same. And everything, I work to millimetres to being the same. Hi Neil, good to see you here. Sorry late. Oh dear me, Colin, that's from Christmas Disco, dear me. In November, yeah. That's terrible, isn't it? It'll be here before we know it, though. I keep on saying I don't want to wish my life away, especially as I get old, but end of next month, and it's a good thing in many ways, is January. It's the new year, and then a couple of months, and then everything starts to brighten up again, longer nights, and we're off and running again. But, yeah, don't want to wish it away. What's this? Man, I always use long rigs, but 3 foot and shorter if not getting bites. Bit at a time closer to the feeder. Like I say, Neil, if you catch it, I don't know it all, but like I say, that's how and the reason I fish. 43 days till Christmas. Thank you, Lee. Christmas every day is your Christmas up there. What's the biggest you fish caught on a stone that you know of? Oh, well, ironically, the last 6 times a traveller was caught, the British record barbel, that was on the stone system. I mean, there's been some whopping carp, over £50 caught on it in this country, and I know. The biggest fish I actually know of was from Echo Pools, and because they fish stones a lot out there, and it's big fish water. And That was £87.5. But in the UK, I'm not really too sure. Like I say, I'm not really, and again, I don't say this in any arrogant or negative way. I just like, personally, I just like going fishing. For me now, I like pretty fish. It's not about the size. I caught some good fish, big fish, heavy fish, things like that. Especially at places like Le Quay, you know, which is we're associated with. But there has been a lot of big fish. I mean, you know, going back to the barbel record, back in the old days when the barbel record lived in a stretch of river on the Ouse called Adams Mill, they actually called the stone system the Adams Mill rig, because they proved there's some very, very good anglers fishing for these very, very elusive barbel in this gin clear little piece of water. And they could watch these fish as soon as the larger piece, so the method feeder or the coil feeder, or just a bare lead or whatever, they saw fish in the swims and they would change their whole dynamic of how they were eating. As soon as they started fishing the stone, you were rooving. And like I say, this is nothing about Pallatrax. It's about using natural against versus man-made. We have to understand that a fish in their own backyard, they know when things are right and wrong. And it was proven time and time again. Like all the big barbel in Adams Mill were caught using the stone system. And the reason they were using it was because no longer were they using a large piece of man-made sat there next, and that's why we can fish a shorter hook length. I can remember a very well-known angler, a carp angler, doing a talk one day, and my stand at a show was very close to where he was doing his talk from, and somebody asked the question, you know, why do you fish that far away from, you know, all that length of area? And he goes, well, and you can see him looking at me because I could hear him. And he says, well, I'm trying to get it further away from the lead. I don't want it sat next to the lead because the lead is alien and things like that. So fishing a stone, making yourself whatever, makes real sense and real difference. But it is definitely, if you talk to a lot of people who've been fishing with stones for years, the amount of fish we've caught on them when other people aren't catching, it's the only thing we're doing really different. But it is, you're changing your whole basically tactical advantage by getting, like Matt just said earlier, less is more. We're just scaling it all down as much as we can possible. You know, if you don't need a clip and a bit of rubber, all I would say to anybody, you know, we can look at that float stock, right, and say that's small, isn't it? But I can see it. So it's not small. It's not small, and because fish can detect things even more than we could, you know, like we can see things during daylight. I would suggest fish can detect through their own, you know, their physical senses. Lots of different things, changing water pressure, all this kind of stuff. Taste on the water. But if you can see it, they can sense it. And so hence why we do everything trying to scale it down. But the biggest thing to get rid of, just use that as your anchor. As casts in place, people who say they can't cast, it's probably therefore I have to assume that they're unable to cast. They need to practice, and I'm not saying that rudely, because they came up that people come out with some quite rude statements about some of the products we do, and all they do is make themselves look a bit stupid by saying you can't cast a stone. Well, we all do. We catch thousands of fish. We you know, it's a real edge. So what the biggest fish in the UK is, I honestly don't know, I'm afraid, Liam, but plenty of fish over £50, I can assure you that. Anglers fishing some of these really, really difficult waters, low stock density, they have to fish at the best they can, because they might only get those chances of a bite every now and again. And by fishing a stone, we all know it does actually help you catch more fish. It's more consistent. So you can see why those anglers, they might not promote the fact that they're fishing on stones, but the fact is, why are they using them? It was interesting, wasn't it, that Carl and Alex, I think it was Alex, and was it both of them? I can't remember. They went over to Carpincher a couple of years ago and caught loads and loads of fish on there. Because of the fishery rules, they had to fish stones. So the carpology team went over there. They had to fish stones because they're the rules, because the owner doesn't want lead going into the substrate and upsetting, you know, biomass. And two of them had their PBs over there fishing with stones. Come back, the irony, and I know the guys, are nice guys, and they say, why didn't you carry on fishing stones? And it's just habit forming, you know. The fact is that this, if you judged and juried a stone, sorry I've gone off tangent here, but if you judged and juried a stone, so you had a group of 12 people and you put all the evidence why fishing stone, not just because of the environmental benefits, but the actual angling tactical benefits of it, I can promise you, if you speak to any member of your family or anybody in the street and say, these are the facts, which one would you fish against? This will always come out above, because there's reasons to fish there. There is just a habit to fish with the man-made. So there you go. What's Ian saying here? Is there still time to enter tonight's raffle? No, because Tinny's just bought it over. I can't believe, what time is it? I'm rabbiting away. I've got loads of questions, loads of stuff I was going to do, and I haven't done it as always. Beanie, how you doing? Happy birthday. Yeah, thanks ever so much. And it's bigger than that. Yeah, they're going Lee Kelly. He says he's had a 47. But like I say, don't get too hung up on the size of fish. I think, again, 1 second. No, it isn't neat vodka, before anybody says. Yeah, so it's not all about big fish. I must admit, I like catching lots of fish on balanced gear. So if I'm fishing, I don't know, a float rod and I'm catching a 4 or 5 pound carp on, I don't know, 4 pound bottom or whatever, and you know, you're really jagging around with it and things like that. Catching big fish is all right. They're impressive, they are, but it certainly isn't. It shouldn't be worn as a badge of honour, if that makes sense. Oh, he's caught a big fish, he must be really good, or she's caught a big fish, she must be really good. Because I don't think fishing should be about that, unless you're match fishing, because you're putting yourself out there to be the best. But in pleasure fishing, I just like catching. I like the whole atmosphere of it and all that goes with it. And like I say, the thing I do regret is not chasing more species over the years. I've been so fixated on carp. So the idea is we're going to have some cracking perch here, because I do love my perch fishing. What's Liam saying? I'd rather fish my rig was bad to be told and rid it than fish in an effective rig. Yeah, I think it's a strange thing. I think it's also a male thing, that we don't like to be kind of critiqued, even if it's constructive criticism. And I always think every day's a school day, and if somebody can show me genuinely, not because they're trying to flog me something or one man upmanship kind of thing, if somebody can show me how to do something better or quicker or more efficient, or, and give me reasons as well, because I think it's all well and good. I think we see a lot in fishing now going, there you go, you need to fish that, and people go, oh, okay, and they go and fish it, but nobody's given them any really specific reasons, and they haven't also, there's always going to be a criticism. There'll be a genuine criticism somewhere. So with a stone, the only genuine criticism I can give you with a stone is a shaped lead for distance fishing will cast further than a stone like that or a round stone of the same weight. Okay, but in all honesty, where people go wrong with the stones, they go, oh, they don't cast. Then they go, well, hang on a second. You walk into a tackle shop, it's full of leads. Okay, there might be a little dusty corner selling the non-toxic, unfortunately. Hopefully that will change in time. Because, whatever I would say is just use non-toxic, never use lead. But people say to me, but then you have different shapes for different things. So, like, there's a flat one, I'll be fishing that on the river or fishing it on a shelf. So all the shapes, all the sizes, the natural colours are there within stones. And you just got to select a stone for the job. If you want to cast fly, you will do. So, your every day should be a school day. And your attitude, Liam, is I commend, because that's where Tom Ben, learn from your mistakes and you pass on your advice. I've never ever come across any nasty Team Pallatrax page whatsoever. All good advice and great community. Tom has given me a lot of advice related to I suffer from SAD as well. A very helpful person is Palm students. Yeah, well, thanks ever so much, Tom. That's very kind words. But genuinely, the whole point of Team Pallatrax is to create a community where there is no nastiness. The page is fully moderated. Sometimes, because I obviously do the team page. I've got Sue and Galen and Dan, all these other people behind the scenes. There's loads of people I can name, but I obviously look after the team page. I won't have it. I've been onto other pages where people have, look at the nastiness in the unhooking mat police. You'll go through those fishing handbooks and see some huge fish. There's no unhooking mat. You know, people just need to be nudged in the right direction. You don't need to come out and be nasty. We all have to start somewhere. I see some people, you know, how they're holding a fish, and yeah, you think, oh, you know, but they won't know any difference unless we help them, unless we genuinely care to help. We're not doing it for any kind of hidden agenda. And that's what Team Pallatrax it has to be. There will not. And, you know, and I have, again, it's not an arrogant statement, but I have booted nasty people off there because they just seem to want to stick it in, isn't it? The keyboard warriors. How's that going to help somebody new coming to the sport? Don't they remember that they had to start off somewhere? So thanks for those kind words. And it is genuine. Where are we going now? Who's that? Somebody's just popped in saying they're late as always. Who is that? Michael Taylor. Hi, Michael. It's interesting. I tie every rig myself. It's a part of fishing. Yeah, Neil. It's something that we've been talking about. Obviously, I tie that LQ rig for in the team exclusive, and you know, and everyone, as you can see, is the same. But there is actually people out there who can't tie rigs. You know, their fingers, you know, their eyesight. You know, they're just not their thing. So I can understand there is a very big market and a need for precision tied hair rigs, and that's where I am. It's not, you know, it's nice to catch on a hair rig you've made yourself, but for some people it's just not. I suppose it's like making, you know, your own shotgun cartridges for shooting and things like that. You'll get another dynamic out of it, but it's not the be all and end all. And to have to make it yourself, but it is in many ways the be all and end all of catching consistently. As long as your rig is proven to catch, like the LQ rig, you know, there's so many variables going on there. I then tend to concentrate, like I say, on bait and depth and location and things like that. I keep trying my own, but I'm not as consistent as I should be, so I just keep practicing and fishing. Defo agree with the tie rigs is part of the fun. Yeah, so that's Carl. And again, I'm not trying it because these are actually at cost. Team members, you can buy these, and perhaps next weekend on the team page, I'll go through how to use these, and you will make. You know, I design them. Matt Rice makes these. You can. If you're a team member, you can ask for these, you get these free, and it's a template, and you'll make your rig. You know, you've got to be happy with the LQ rig. I promise you it's a really good bit of kit. You'll make, by using something like that, you'll make the same rig time and time and time again. And if that rig is working, then you'll get the results time and time and time again. And that's the key with rigs. There's too many rigs on the market. It's too much confusion, and therefore you're going to get inconsistencies with catch rates. Yeah, it is practice makes perfect, I suppose, Carl. But if you can, you know, if you've got one of those little sheets or just feel free to give me a call at some stage or drop me a message. Because like I say, once you get into it's like, you know, hang of it, like riding a bike, you'll just make those rigs, your rigs are spot on every time. You don't then think about changing it for all this weird and wonderful jingly jangly stuff that we know fish can detect, because we're having to agree that you can see that little black thing, which is, you know, not very big, but that potentially is that size could be a warning. So yeah, keep on practicing. Where are we now? Roll on spring, yeah, Tom. I know, mate. I'm with you. These dark nights. Tony's got to go and get some sleep before night shift. Sleep well, sir. It's practice, but if you need any help, there you go. And thanks, Neil. That's what I like, you know, people offering to help each other. And that's what I like about Team Pallatrax as well. Is when I was a youngster, we had, you know, I fished with this club, the Mount Pleasant Arms from Repton. It was all about just people helping it. And what I've loved about Team Pallatrax is where people have met and then they go off fishing together. You know, oh, yeah, I live there. So, and I think that's really quite cool, because they wouldn't have met that person, or very unlikely to have met that person, just through, you know, word of mouth or whatever. So it does bring us together, that's for certain. Right, where am I? Oh, what's this? Oh, I can't read this. Hi, Andy Townsend. Missed the stream. I'm still here, Lee. Still here. So there's loads of things coming in now, and I can't. I get to the point where you should. Oh, Let me try. Somebody sending me a star. What does that mean? E. Kelly. 1 second, folks. But I think that's twisted loops. I think I'm missing some here. Oh, it's gin. I think I've missed a question there, so I do apologise. Met some good friends through fishing. Yeah, exactly, Neil. Yeah, isn't there nothing worse, isn't it? You go to a party, you know, you drag along, you have to wear some tidy clothes because you need to look the part because you're with your wife or whatever, and you're at this party and everybody's talking about all their hobbies, like train spotting or whatever other people do, and then suddenly somebody says about fishing, and you go, "What was that?" And it makes and breaks, all breaks the light, and you just sat there. And then I can remember going to the Maldives on my honeymoon, and I was just sitting in the bar thinking, just wish there was somebody to chat about fishing here, because there's all these fish in the Maldives. And Tilly's just said thanks. But it is nice, isn't it, when you meet somebody else who's fishing, and then you know it's just that common bonding, isn't it? So yeah, I'm with you there. So I say I've missed the thing, but anyway, I'm going to go on. What time is it? I don't even know what time it is. I think I've gone well over, as always, rabbiting away about all kinds of things. There's various questions which I shall go. But the winner tonight, unfortunately, it's not Matt Rice. This will be back to front. I need to see if I can do it that way. Carl Cowling. Carl, you have won yourself some of the... This is a bit special, this one. There's Neil Denton Proved, and we caught a lot of fish here down at Ashton's Woolly Pools on this one. You've got 2 of the new hardened, boosted, pre-drilled super duper hook baits and a packet of grips. Lee Kelly is not the winner. So I do apologise if I've missed some questions, because I can't scroll up and down. So hopefully, please don't think I'm rude. Carl, if you can just PM me, so PM me Simon Pomeroy, and I will make sure that that goes off out in the post. So just send me your address and things like that. So just covering a quick couple of things. I am looking at how to fish helicopter, but using some of us to make it as cheap as possible. No worries, you're more than welcome. I may not have won, but I did have a slice of birthday cake. You did it that well. You did it that. So just a couple of things. How do you flavoured scalded pellet? That's from Duncan out in Jersey. Literally get your hot water and add your flavour and then scald it. You know, and all you're going to do is impregnate the outside of it with a flavour. But that's the way to introduce it. And then you can, with scalded pellet, you know, you don't have to use it straight away. You can let it sit, and then you can just spray flavours on it, add flavour. But make sure not an oil base, because the oil base will only sit on the outside. That's why I'm very, very pro water based in like our boosters and things like that. Like something like, I mean, there's the wild crab booster there. I mean, that is based on water. Stinks. And the reason it's based on water is because water will ingress. Oils sit on the outside. I don't want it to sit on the outside. It will go too quickly. I want to actually go right through. So make sure whatever you're using to flavour it does emulsify with water. Don't use an oil-based flavour, stick it in some water and expect it, because it'll just float above it and separate. So there we go. So what else did I have? Terry Blake saying about sweet corn PVA friendly. There's lots of people coming back about using salt and things like that. All I do, I like I said, don't use a lot of PVA because I'm using my method mix. So I add corn to my method mix. But all you got to do is basically dry the exterior. So you can use that, you get a bit of powder like method mix powder, and you can just literally dry it all off, leave it out. You know, you don't want to leave it out so it all shrivels up and disappears, but you just want to make sure that the exterior is dry. And then you can put it in PVA bags. It's not like you're going to put it in there. You know, don't do it, you know, pre-fishing. Do it at the time of fishing, if that makes sense. You dry them out beforehand, but they'll still have inside, they'll still have a moisture content. Yeah, Ali, did we cover that one? Oh yeah, we did. It's about how much reduced amount of bait using water. And like I say, just going back to that, because it is important, bait is the key word. As in, a bait isn't made from an ingredient called bait. It's actually made from whatever. and that's why you always need to be, and that will always dictate as well how much you're using, wherever and whatever time of the year. It'll fluctuate and things like that. It's always very, very difficult. But what we do know is if you put too much in, you can't take it out. And that's kind of how I live with it. Don't put too much in. And I fish small packages of high nutritional value bait, and I'm fishing for a fish at a time, unless I'm fishing one of the huge waters I fished historically, where you do have to kind of set a bit of a bonfire of attractant, so you're putting more bait out to try and get fish to come in. But you're like Dean, 10,000 acres, that's a big chunk of water. It's like fishing an inland sea. So there we go. But anyway, folks, that's me. I've gone well past my time, so hopefully there was some things of interest there. I went all over the place. Half the stuff I was going to show you, I haven't shown you, because that's the way it goes. But hopefully you've enjoyed. Like I say, don't forget, if you're not a member of Team Pallatrax, please feel free to join. It's free of charge. Loads of benefits to it and growing benefits. Just go to our website, pallatrax.co.uk, and you can join there. And because next week we'll be on that. Thanks, Kevin. Good to see you again. Thanks, Colin. So yes, thanks, Dave. But between now and then, or at any other time, you can always ring me up. I'll always come back to you. Always send me a PM if you've got any particular questions, and I'll do as much as I can to help. So excuse me. I just say. Thanks, Robert. So we'll, and Ian, thanks for your kind words. We'll just end showing my, I honestly, I don't want to be too nice to Matt, but this is a real, real bit of kit there. Look at that. Absolute beast of a thing. So there we go. You stay safe. Oh, is that Galen, Michael? It's Canada. How you doing? So yes. So on that note, folks, I will say have a fantastic week. Hope you had a great weekend. Stay safe, stay well. And if you've got any questions whatsoever, please always. I'm not saying I will know the answer, but I will find somebody who does at the very least. So have a cracking week, folks, and we'll speak again very, very soon. Thanks for your support. Cheers.